Meet Kevin. He left the United States, a military and a tech career behind in the 90s, to pioneer software sales in Thailand. In today's episode, we take a stroll down history lane and learn about Kevin's various ventures, including an app that got copied by Google and his current company, MessageSpring. Welcome to Next Big Wave. Today's episode, I'm with Kevin Bloom. Kevin, nice to meet you. We've met before, but officially in person, and I'm super excited to have you on the pod today. Based on our conversations, you have a lot of great stories, so I'm excited to dig into that. So if you don't mind, would you introduce us into your background, where you're from, what you've done in the past professionally, and kind of get us up to speed on yourself?
Yeah, so I grew up in Missouri.
Yeah.
Some people refer to it as Missouri. Others call it Missouri, but it's Missouri. And through high school, grew up poor as dirt, wore hand-me-downs from cousins, some of them female, which was terrible. Went through school, and I realized, this is not a way to live. And my parents were actually very pro-education. Okay. And same with my grandmother from Italy, very pro-education. So I'm like, I have to get educated if I want to get out of this farm life. So went to school, deep into debt, graduated with $75,000 of student loans, acquired 4 college degrees in the process, started working at Accenture, then known as Anderson Consulting, where they like almost literally roll you up to a client site in a school bus because you know nothing. You just come out of school and you're there billing people $3,000 a day for your limited programming expertise. But you do quickly learn like everything about that client and that industry. So it's a really good process to get in, get your feet wet, high pressure, expected to deliver when you think you can't do anything. And they put me into the hardest projects, the scariest projects, the ones that had the highest chance of failure.
Because where do you think that is?
Well. They saw something in me, I think.
Okay.
That's one thing. I did get some awards for the most improved because I didn't have degrees in computer science. But all of my colleagues, I was in a tech art group. I shouldn't have been there because I had to get a new book every day and teach myself something new. Right. So I'm in there with all the guys with EE and comp sci degrees, some of them with dual masters. And I'm programming next to them. And I don't have a background. They taught me COBOL and then put me on a client server interior computing project where I had to teach myself C on the weekends and nights and then go code in C in a very, very complex environment at Southwestern Bell. Yeah.
Okay.
So they send you off, train you, brainwash you for a month in COBOL, and then they send you to, you go over and write some C programming language stuff.
And charge full price for it.
Yeah, charge $2,500 a day.
Beautiful.
Right.
So great model.
Yeah, if they throw you into that, and I saw people who had engineering degrees, they get booted off our project for failure of delivering and stuff like that. But I wasn't. Failure is something that I don't.
You don't understand.
No, I don't. Whatever I do, if whatever I'm working on fails, it was impossible for me to do. It's just not possible. So I studied. I have a SQL book in one hand and teach yourself C in 21 days in the other, walking around and just pounding Mountain Dews to create a stomach ache to keep you awake. Because if the caffeine didn't do it, the empty stomach with all those chemicals would keep you awake. And it worked. And they saw something in me, so I went from Southwestern Bell to Federal Express, where I was a lead tech arc guy with like no formal.
And how long was the period till you got to that?
Actually, that was my last project. It was a period of 4.5 years.
Okay,
so, but it was from like Southwestern Bell to an internal, very intense project where we built something called FCP, Foundation for Collaborative Processing or Cooperative Processing, and then from there to insurance, big scale insurance project to Pat Bell doing video on demand in the late 90s. Can you imagine?
No.
In the late 90s doing...
That's wild.
And a POC with 9 million homes. I'm out there as like one of the lead tech guys, and everybody there hated us because it was a bunch of old people, as you find in these Southwestern Bell organizations, right? with a bunch of know-it-all kids coming in on their school bus telling the people how to run a $50 billion telephone company. And then from there to Federal Express, where that was where the real learning hit. You know, the owner, Fred Smith, this was in the late 90s. He saw the internet coming, and he knew that package delivery was going to explode with Amazon, you know, everybody ordering stuff with a click of a mouse.
Pretty visionary though at that
time. Oh,
time.
big time, yeah. Actually, when he went to, I think he went to Yale, and he did his master's thesis on the concept of Federal Express. And there's a famous story that he got a C- on that, and his professor said, I'm glad to see you learned nothing in this class. I'll give you the C- as a grace. And word is that every year he sends a shareholder report, annual report to that professor. Right. At one time, it was actually the largest airline in the world with like 1,400 planes.
Yeah.
And it has landing priority at like Memphis. But anyway, I went there, and they threw me into with all of these amazing people from MIT, and I'm sitting there having to swim, and I was one of the lead tech guys. I had to write all of the really core stuff between Sybase and this product called Tuxedo, and I then had an amazing opportunity to come to Thailand, and I just started looking for every way to get to Thailand.
So wait, you had an opportunity through work, and then you looked for another opportunity to come, or
no,
what's the story there?
I met somebody.
Okay.
And I knew I needed to come here.
Got it.
And I had a great career at Anderson Consulting, and they actually offered me a job here in Thai baht, which was like 1/10 of my salary there. I'm like, I do want to go, but that's probably a little hard to take a 90% haircut in salary. And I had an offer from IBM. But then those were the two competing offers I had, both local Thai baht salaries. And this was like 2 months before the Asian financial crisis that came in July '97.
Basically, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I had discovered this on the FedEx project, an amazing product called Tuxedo. It comes from AT&T, a couple, Bill, Ed, and Alfred, BEA. They acquired this product from Unix System Laboratories and built a business around it because it was a product that was amazing, doing $60 million a year in revenue. They convinced a venture capital firm to write them a check for $50 million. They went and bought it, and a couple of years later, they were doing $1 billion a year in revenue. I think it still holds today the fastest software startup to reach $1 billion ARR.
Is that so?
Yeah, wow. I think still. Yeah. The people who wrote the $50 billion check, I think, $50 million check exited with like $12 billion. So that was also a massive, it is a massive exit. So I learned that product very deeply. I became a really serious Tuxedo architect. And I just fired off an email to, there was no office in Thailand. I think there were only 2 offices at the time. I sent an email to BEA Hong Kong. I found it on their website. info@BEA, whatever, right? I fired it off. I'm like, hey, I know this product better than any of you people because I just finished this massive project at FedEx where I don't think it's ever been tested like this because we were testing it on a $400 million proof of concept of hardware, right? It was you couldn't put all those servers in this office space. And like the next day, someone called me. Hey, this is David Hall from Hong Kong. I got your email. And 2 days later, I had a job offer in US dollars to go to Thailand.
And you were already based in Thailand?
No, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, trying to figure out, thinking I would do anything to go to Thailand.
So you're still in Missouri though at that time?
Still in Missouri, yeah.
Okay,
But
I never got out.
I'd been to Acapulco.
Okay.
I had been to Tijuana. I'd been all over in the Marine Corps. Something I failed to mention at the beginning. I was an intel analyst in the Marines. Okay. Studied MiGs and things like that. It was called the Air Order of Battle for the Persian Gulf nations. Became an expert on aircraft identification. Still today, every time I fly, I'm like, oh, that's an L-1011 from Lockheed. You can't get it out of your system.
Ingrained.
Once it's ingrained in you. So I sent that email from St. Louis. I'd been to Thailand once, thought it was chaotic and weird. Said, get me out of here, I'll never come back. I got back, I'm like, I miss the chaos of the tuk-tuks roaring down the street and almost running you over, the smells.
How was it back then? Because you've been here for a while, and I'm very curious because I've only been here for 8 months, and I'm super curious because you mentioned these companies already being in Thailand. Like, how has it evolved?
It's amazing, actually. So I came here in '97.
Right.
I'm sorry, I moved here in '97. I came here on an exploratory trip in '94, and I came from Chesterfield, Missouri, where I was living, and it was like all the grass. It looks like it's combed. It's perfect. You could lick the streets. I came here. I flew into Don Mueang, obviously, because Suvarnabhumi didn't exist. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? It took me like 3 hours to get out of the airport.
What got you here though in the first time?
I saw a girl.
Exploration.
I was in grad school at St. Louis University, and I saw like a perfect human being who happened to be from here.
Right.
And I'm like, I got to go see what country created this human.
Jeez.
And that's a long story. That's not for film, but that's a long story for another time over
Sure.
years. But that's what brought me here the first time. The second time in '97 was because I met someone else, and that was the permanent move. So what did it look like in '94? Nothing like now. I mean, so '97 is like when the Emporium opened.
Oh, okay. It's just that.
I moved here, and that was like it had been open a couple of months, I think. Right. So everybody was. You remember when M-Sphere opened? How crazy it was. Imagine the Emporium, because there was, and that was like the tallest building from here all the way out to Bang Na. There was like nothing.
Damn.
There were like little 5-story buildings and whatnot, but it didn't look like anything like today. And so I moved here, and I saw the BTS. It was under construction.
97?
97.
Okay.
I believe they were just starting to dig the holes around Krompong.
Okay.
I don't remember where they started. But I got here, and you get just sucked into it. I like challenges, right? So in America, everything's too simple. Like, I drive to the store, I've got 87 kinds of apples to choose from, and they're all perfect. Right here, I got to ride through rain and traffic to find a smaller selection. I just like the challenge of life.
What about the chaos? Are you like?
I love chaos.
Yeah,
I love chaos. I've become an expert now in judging. Do I have an inch on each side of my mirror in my motorcycle to go between the cars at 60 kilometers an hour?
This is completely like sidetracked, but what do you think of the fact that here chaos just flows naturally and you never hear anyone honking? And back in stateside or Canada, like, you'd make the slightest wrong move and people get really mad.
They rip out a AK-47.
Basically, like, how does that work in your opinion?
So there are things that we can talk about and can't talk about, in how well Thailand gets a lot of things right. Right, the things that governments do wrong and right. Here, they make chaos work. And the people living outside don't know what you mean. Yeah. Right? But if you've lived here for a while, it just like it's. I think I've lived in some great places: Orlando, Florida, Palo Alto, California, San Diego. They're all great places. But when I fly back to Thailand, I come through. There's that smell, whatever that is. It's like jet fuel and dust. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm like, I'm home.
Yeah.
When I land in San Francisco or LA, JFK, wherever, I feel like a foreigner. I feel missing. Unwanted.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's a feeling that a lot of people share here.
Right. Yeah. Nobody gets it. But my mom I moved my mom here in November.
Really?
And I'm like, man, Mom, I'm going to move you over here. I'm going to go through all this drama to get you here. And in 3 months, you're going to say, move me back. But what she says now is, I'm a little perturbed that you didn't move me here 25 years ago.
Interesting.
I'm like, well, you knew it was good, because I bought myself Ferraris and stuffed them in a garage in St. Louis to lure me back there, because that was my dream car. I have 25% Italian blood. My grandmother, Miriam Ben, told me, I'll know you've made it when you can buy yourself a Ferrari. So I bought 2, stuffed them in the garage, couldn't care less to fly back and drive them.
Interesting.
Nothing. I had a big house in Chesterfield.
So you didn't get rid of it. You kind of had it as a plan B.
I left it there to get me to go back, because it was actually peaceful. But I'd be there for 3 days, and I mean, it's like birds are chirping. I'm floating in my pool. Everything's perfect, but I don't hear any tuk-tuks.
Yeah.
right?
Something's missing.
Something's missing. Yeah. So I'd be like, my secretary at the time was, hey, get me out of here. Change my ticket or whatever. Get me out. And I'd come back to Thailand.
All right.
I'd feel like I'm home.
So that's the story of how you got here. But we got sidetracked on
we
your
did,
career.
Yeah.
And I know some good stuff is coming, because when we were talking about scaling businesses and growth hacks, you mentioned that story, and I'm really eager to get back into it.
Yeah, so the company that brought me here, BEA Systems, I was just mentioning this to last night with some BEA colleagues who've recently moved back into the region. So they brought me here. And I thought I was coming here as a technical guy, because I was. I'd never done I had an MBA. Of course, you learn all of the MBA courses, but putting it in practice is a completely different thing. My boss flies up, Terry McAllister flies up from Australia. I'm already gotten the job. I think I've already gotten my first paycheck, but the first time I see him, we sit down over coffee. He's like, I've changed your job. You're now the managing director and sales manager for Thailand. I'm like, let's see, I've sold my Mustang before and I gave my cat away before I moved over here. I don't have any sales experience. He's like, the best salespeople are people who are passionate about their product. He said, I have faith in you. The next day, the Thai baht broke against and then all hell broke loose. I think when I got here, it was 24 something per dollar, and then like 6 months later, it was 58.
Yeah.
But everybody wanted our product, because our product is one of those, it's a build versus buy thing. No one would build this thing if you could buy it. So nobody wanted to buy it though, because the company, being a fresh startup, actually newly listed on the NASDAQ, had to do all of their global revenues in US dollars. You couldn't take any orders or anything on a local currency. It had to be US dollars. But imagine your AIS back then, or DTAC, who at the time it was called TAC. It wasn't DTAC yet. Total Access Communications. And you're trying to buy $2 million worth of software. Well, is that 70 million baht, or is it 116 million baht? Because the exchange rate was doing this. I couldn't find anybody to issue a purchase order in dollars, because I believe in that 6 months after the financial crisis, we lost 1 million people here, and 1 million people went unemployed. Hundreds of companies went belly up. Anybody who was paying stuff overseas in US dollars just went bankrupt.
Of course.
Because they couldn't pay the bill, right? So I buckled down, I tried, and I finally am like, I can't do this. So I flew up to Hong Kong to tell Terry McAllister and his boss, David, I can't remember his name, but tell them, hey, look, we can't do this. This is not going to be successful. I'll quit. You owe me $30,000 in commissions, guaranteed commissions, and I'll invest that all in my company. What company? Well, I'll start a company called BEA. I just need your approval to use the name. Nah, kicked me out of the office. I went back and thought about it. Actually went out and opened a company, called it BEA Systems, went through the process, flew back up there, said, okay, hey, let's talk about this again. I'm here to, I believe we have customers, but I need to be able to issue invoices in Thai baht and have them pay locally. I'll take the risk and pay you US dollars. You're an idiot. Like, well, I'm willing to put all my I had a net worth of $30,000. I'm willing to risk it all. No, can't do it. So I said, well, actually, I've already started the company. It's actually called BEA Systems. It's really hard to unwind a company once you start it. So you got two choices. Let that company be a software distributor, or I'll turn it into a donut shop or something. And he thought that was funny. So he called legal counsel in San Francisco. And they had a good laugh and said, okay, we'll let him die in Bangkok. 9 months later, I got a 40 million baht check from AIS. So rather than getting a $60,000 commission, I got an $800,000 distributor margin.
Beautiful.
Which I invested completely in my first office at Lake Ratchada office complex. Maybe a year later, I had 9 people working there, and I got my next big deal, which is a $250 million baht deal from Wireless Communication Services for a big, it's now called True. It went through an evolution, right? WCS to TA Orange to True Move to True. But we put in the billing infrastructure for them. And then basically sold that product to every single phone company in Thailand, some who no longer exist. Hutchison, ACT.
So your strategy was essentially to like move away from trying to distribute worldwide and just focus on the Thai market, and
Totally,
that's how you avoided the whole currency exchange problem.
No, I actually made money on the currency exchange because I would normally a normal product life cycle, a sales cycle for this product was you sell them development licenses, they build a product over a year, then they have to buy production licenses. Well, the development licenses are $10,000, let's say, for a big project. Whereas the runtime production licenses might be $10 million. So what I would do to reduce the risk, I would say, okay, you're going to need this much in production, right? I'll give you the developer licenses for free, but we're going to do this deal today because I'm going to assume all of the risk of this foreign exchange bit, right? But I'm going to give you a big enough discount that you couldn't go to the bank and borrow the money and make it make more sense, right? So I'm going to give you, I think the one of the phone deals was I gave them $12 million of list price product for $8 million. So they got a $4 million discount by just buying it like 6 months earlier. And of that $8 million, over $6 million was profit to my little company that had 9 people in it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And the strategy was because you kind of expected the bot to kind of drop.
No, I just built in I would say, okay, hey, I would see what happened for the past month or so. I know this deal is happening. I would quote them in Thai bot after I applied a 15% uplift just for Forex risk.
Okay.
And they're going to get anybody doing this business is going to get a discount anyway to bring the purchase of those production licenses forward. But I was bringing it well forward. Right? At development time. They're building the product that they won't deploy for a year, but they've already paid for my licenses and paid for a whole year of maintenance. But the discount was so massive. But in another way, we differentiate ourselves too, like the people who would try to drop ship our product. I put guys on motorcycles. I gave it an SLA. You have any kind of alert pop up, I'm going to have a guy knocking on your data center in 30 minutes. They love that. They'd never seen it before. So it was a Thailand-only business, but I had to wrestle with. I was the I guess risk mitigation strategy between BEA corporate in America and Thailand, the Thai community. So I'm paying them in bot after I'm paying them in dollars after I'm collecting bot from you.
Right. And the fact that you charge all of that up front, though, doesn't it affect your business in the long term? Because you're making a ton of cash, but the license stretches over like 10, 15 years, right? So what's the risk there?
None, because someone buy it and they're competitive. Once I won DTAC, AIS bought it, HT, all of the phone companies bought it because nobody wanted to. They were so competitive, right? They whatever he's doing, this guy's going to do.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to scale with Tuxedo. You don't have to write all that stuff. Literally everybody bought it here.
But what I'm trying to get at is that we've moved from a licensing business to like a SaaS business now. Like every software is SaaS. And what it does for valuations and M&A is that it's sustained cash flow, it's predictable.
It's an annuity.
But now, I'm trying to, I recently went through this pricing exercise for myself and went back through the history of pricing. And these licenses that you would pay up front,
we call them perpetual licenses. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So how do you value a business on a perpetual license sort of model?
The license, you still have an annuity. But you sell the perpetual licenses on, let's say, once a project goes live, right? Someone spends $10 million on licenses to manage 10,000 concurrent users of a system, right? This is 20 years ago. Right. This isn't a perpetual license day, right? But you would sell them, you made your real gravy on trying to sell them on 7x24 support versus 5x8 or no support at all, right? If there's no support, and nobody's going to deploy a $20 million system on a no support where the core is our software, right? So then you sit down and have negotiations about, okay, 5x8 or 7x24.
Right.
5x8 was 15%, 7x24 was something like 27%. So you sell $8 million worth of licenses, and the next year you're getting 27% of the list price. So 27% of 12 million was the annual maintenance. So you're actually,
that's the cash flow.
That's the cash flow. And there are really strict rules about, okay, if you're selling perpetual licenses, you can book that all in this quarter, whereas
you have to amortize
you have to amortize it over the next 12 months, right?
On their end for sure, but even on the revenue side, you had to amortize the...
Totally, yeah, you can't book it. Like if I close a deal at the end of the quarter for, let's say, $1 million, and then there's, let's say, another $270,000 due in maintenance, the publicly traded company can only book as revenue the $1 million.
Right.
Then the next month they get 1/12 of 270,000, and they do that forward, right? And that's usually not discountable, right? Because the SEC monitors that because it's an obligation, right? Even though you got the cash, you are obligated to provide service for the next year. That's why you can't book it right now.
Right. Cool. So moving on from this business, which obviously was quite successful, did you end up selling that, or how did you transition to what you're doing now?
I had a lot of offers to sell it. I actually had a binding letter of intent with a major company here. I'll leave them nameless. Sure. A major company here. They're still in existence. I still have the document. A binding letter of intent for $1 billion bought, $700 million in cash, $300 million in their stock.
Okay.
And my financial advisor let me know that, hey, if you hit these targets, you'll actually own them at the end, because of the way the accelerators and things were built into that deal. And I backed out of that because the top level company got delisted for some accounting irregularities, and that wasn't too many years after Enron. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. This is going to keep going.
Yeah.
I'll just keep my company. And unfortunately, the mothership company was acquired by Oracle a few years later, which rendered my company useless. It was a distributor of a product who now has a huge footprint here,
right,
with hundreds of employees. So I had to.
Oracle had a big footprint.
Oh, Oracle was here. Okay. So Oracle US acquired BEA for like well over somewhere between 10 and $20 billion. And by the way, they were acquiring it for that revenue, that maintenance revenue stream. That was what they were wanting. And they just pared down from what I understand, they pared down the engineering team to like 9 people, right? So anyway, so I transitioned that company, made enough money over the years to semi-retire, and got bored. I had 2 kids, got bored. I was taking them to every nap they had, feeling guilty, watching people drive down the road to work. Then got back into it and sort of started building the early stages of this company, building an app.
Okay. Tell us about the company.
And how it started? Yeah. So I was actually walking around a Jaguar parking lot, auto dealer in St. Louis. I was going to buy a car. It's about $100,000. And it was wintertime, it was a rear-wheel drive, so I'm trying to convince myself to not buy the car. And I'm like, if I drive it off the lot, it's going to decrease in value by 50%. So what could I do with $100,000 that's good for my girls? So I'm like, I'll build an app. And I'd actually been thinking about, how do I keep my kids safe in this upcoming world? Because you could see technology bringing threats closer to, actually bringing threats into your house, right? With comments and video games and all this stuff. I'm thinking, as an overprotective father, what do I need to do? So I envisioned at first a little telephone that would have just certain phone. There's no screen, just a couple buttons. Mom, Dad, Grandpa, emergency button. Right? Okay. It's a Hello Kitty. I thought I'm going to build a Hello Kitty because they liked Hello. We always flew EVA Airways.
And they were too young for a real cell phone, right?
They were too young. This was 7 and 5.
Yep.
So probably these days.
Like back then, 3 and up.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking, I envision this little Hello Kitty phone with like 3 buttons and an emergency thing, right? And a block list. Only people who can call in are the people on the buttons.
Right.
And then I was doing this project in Vietnam, building a strategy for building a huge data center for Vietnam's largest consumer.
This is while you were retired, right?
Yeah. I told you I couldn't stay out of it, right? I'd get these itches, and people would say, "You want to do this?" And then, "Oh yeah, let's go build a billion-dollar data center in Vietnam." Sure. I land in Vietnam. I'm sleepy. I fall asleep, but I wake up, and what's going on CNBC Asia? They're talking about my phone. They're actually demoing it in Hong Kong. This little phone that had the little buttons. I'm like, God, I can't do that. So, and I couldn't fathom trying to find a contract manufacturer to build this stuff, right? I didn't have those types of connections. So I'm like, I'll just write some software, an app to convert a cell phone, a standard Android phone, into that thing. Mm-hmm. But it's built in such a way that like that phone is only useful for that little kid. Like maybe 6 months later, you got to get him something that's not a Hello Kitty, but maybe a Superman right? I envision an app where I could, when they're really young, tighten down everything. It can only do these three things, but as time goes by, remotely I could give more freedom.
Right.
And that's what we built. We built an app called Catch Me If You Can. Our little logo, our first logo was like the if and if you can was like lassoing the me as me is trying to escape the catch me bit. Is actually pretty cool, and it was actually a great idea because it's quite controversial. Mm-hmm. Because I could do it. The final version of that app was extremely powerful. Like record phone calls from certain types of numbers and record the surroundings when my children were over at a friend's house or whatever. Yeah. Right, and I had little rings of geofences along every BTS stop. So when my children left, I'd get an alert, and then I get an alert every time she hit a BTS station. And you could build the rings as big as you want. Right? Yeah. So I built the rings around every BTS station.
And it was just them using it at the time?
No, we had 250, 300,000 people.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
in the U.S., and mostly, though, in India and Bangladesh. But the problem was nobody had a credit card. So the people who were signing up didn't have a credit card. So we're just giving free subscriptions all the time and working through any issues. Because when you build a powerful app like this on devices of like thousands of different types of devices and variants of Android, you know, that deep level code works differently down there, right? So we had a very, very solid engineering team building some amazing stuff. But no, we had a lot of people using it. And we have stories of some 3 months after launch, we helped a mom bring a 28-year-old of her 13-year-old daughter to justice. Wow. Yeah. That's 3 months after. I'm like, okay, I'm onto something. Mm-hmm. That's a long story. We can do that another time, but I knew I had a powerful product.
For sure.
And that one thing is, for me, worth whatever we spent on that product, because that dude's in jail, that girl is safe. So we had the 250, 300,000 users. We had a huge database of all and we could see how the app was behaving on every single variant of Android on every single device. And we had some self-healing bits built into it. Amazing app, but it became very, very difficult to cost justify keeping it going because an app like that, you've got to spend PayPal spent $60 million to get its growth going by giving 3 million people $20 to sign up. Mm-hmm. And it was difficult to attract funding for a controversial app because, people are going to use it to spy on their spouses. And right? Course. And we had all types of protections built in there. Like we had a special part on our website. Do you think you're being monitored by our app? Mm-hmm. Come up here, enter your details, like your phone number or your IMEI, and we'd search our database. And if there was a match, call us. And we had that. We found that. Some people in North Carolina doing some weird stuff. But then Google started making that really difficult to keep the app on the App Store. They were wanting to do it.
Like the privacy settings, I suppose.
They just really made it really, really difficult. We were always compliant, but it required more and more and more engineering to stay on the App Store. Like I said, they're trying to build their own version of it. So we finally, and we stumbled upon an opportunity to build our current business. still the same structure, just renamed. My children were attending a school here in Thailand, and every day I'd get an email, and it would be, "Dear Kevin," and there'd be 2 paragraphs of stuff that's completely unrelated to me. And then every single student, every single grade, right? Kindergarten 1, kindergarten 2, all the way down to 12th grade. And then 4 or 5 paragraphs of wrap up and other stuff that's unrelated to me. I just need to know, is tomorrow blue day or red day?
Yeah.
Right? And do they need to bring a lunchbox or not? So and all the parents were there like, what do I need to do today, right? And I realized it, and by the way, it was also in 4 languages, despite that school having 39 languages.
So limited languages, but still overwhelming in an email.
Overwhelming, and if you were the 4th language in that thesis,
scroll master,
you're scrolling on that screen for 15 minutes, and then you're like, okay, 5th grade blue lunchbox, okay, good. But then what if you're one of the 35 other languages? You're paying $1 million baht to go to school, but you're not getting accommodated.
Right.
So I talked to the leadership about, hey, we looked for everything. There's nothing that does this. We want to send a message and everybody gets it in their language. I'm like, well, they got the Chrome browser, and still nobody does that, right? Okay. People probably also want it in different channels. Nobody reads email these days.
Sure.
There's stories. I went out there for Halloween one time, and 80% of the kids weren't dressed up. Because nobody read the mail, right? Sure. So I'm like, the messages aren't getting there, and the school told me it's horrible. They've got to like compile it and then give it to the Japanese translator, then because they didn't use Google Translate, they didn't trust it, and it was terrible. So I'm like, this is a problem that technology can fix really easily. So we spent the next 18 months building what is now known as MessageSpring, and our challenge, the way we challenged ourselves was, the job can't get any harder to accommodate all the languages and all the channels. I still need to just be able to write an email, choose my audience, click send, and magically the people who want it in SMS get it in SMS. The people who want it in email get it in email. The people who want it in an app get it in an app. The people who want to see it on social media get it in social media. And that's what we have today.
Okay.
You can sign up in 2 minutes, write your message, choose your audience, click send. And if they've told the system about their preferences, I want it in Swahili, I want it via SMS, and all of those things you talk about, I only want these 3 things. I only want to know about school closures, or holidays, or whatever, emergencies. And they'll only get those, and they'll get it in Swahili, and they'll get it in text.
Yeah.
Everybody else can get all the other, fire hydrant flow of data. But some people just want what's just really important. They only want it in SMS. So
it's like a notification setting.
It is.
Like in a really simple
yes,
manner.
It's an omni-channel messaging system. Omni-channel normally applies to retail, where you can see same product information, all these different channels, but we use it for messaging. And let's say you receive your message in SMS. We don't put the message there. We give you a link. We built our own little bit.ly tech. So you get a link that is specific to you. You click on it. We then mark that as delivered and read, so the sender can know that you got it via SMS. And you can go read the message, full like rich text, videos, PDF files, and all. And we track what you clicked. But if you want to change your language or change your preferences, like for channel and topics, you can just go click on a little button and say, hey, I'm tired of reading in Swahili. Give it to me in English.
Okay.
And my phone number changed.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go tell the school, hey, stop sending that number.
For sure.
So it's all self-service.
Self-serve.
Totally self-serve. And if because we did some research, we found that if a message gets longer than 6 sentences, people stop.
Yeah.
Because the books on tape and and YouTube and stuff like that have trained a generation of listeners and not so much readers. So we do text-to-speech too. So every message you send out gets text-to-speech. And we run on 3 different translation platforms, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services. So we cover nearly 200 languages, and we think we cover them the most. I mean, we cover them not only the most, because we give you the union set of all of those. And we do the text-to-speech with the highest grade voices. So we use the most expensive voices when it comes to the TTS bit. And it's a really good user experience. And, we've got apartment complexes, municipalities, golf courses.
I was going to ask, so the ICP is not just schools.
No.
It's all sorts.
It's basically any organization, any entity without an app.
Okay.
Because with an app, you've got your audience.
Right.
The captive audience is right there, right? But we have, even Marriott Bonvoy have asked us for an SDK to put in their app, but we're busy kind of just building our own little ecosystem of customers right now. But yeah, it's we have 4 pillars we're going after primarily: the municipalities, golf courses, apartment complexes. Because you think about an apartment complex, or I live in. There are people from all over the world, 40 languages there. They use the app, as well as schools.
Right.
Yeah. Right now we're integrating with a thing called One Roster. It's the top level rostering system that all the student information systems in America use.
Okay.
And it's critical because when you do that integration, you import all their groups and permissions and roles and all the people. So when 7th graders become 8th graders, you have no work to do because they're promoting all those grades up one level.
Right.
So you have to do nothing.
So you're not just focusing in Thailand right now. You already start to grow in America, you said?
Actually, we're exclusively focused in America right now.
Okay.
Right. So our business it's actually evolved. One of our customers who we were talking to about them exclusively using MessageSpring as their omni-channel outreach for one of the products that they were going to build, they liked us and are like, can you just build that product for us? Well, that's not what we do, but yeah, we'll build you the MVP and see how it goes. Over a year and a half later, now we've built them 2 SaaS platforms, which will both use MessageSpring. Right. And it's become actually a very, very nice business for us because, it's customer-funded development, and we're building the piece that's ultimately going to use our own product to deliver messages to.
And do you have the rights to those softwares that you can scale up or not?
Their product is no. We're an outsourced partner. In fact,
Right.
they actually offered to buy us in December, which is nice.
Cool.
So the product we're building for them is actually quite amazing. It's monetizing maybe 17 petabytes of location data in America. Literally every single cell phone, its location, every day we have in this database. And we're just matching that with CRM records and allowing the industries we're going after to IP target people with ads based on what we know about where they're going and what they're about to do, which is buy a car or buy a house or list their own house.
So that's quite different from
very different.
The core business.
It's very different, but it's just one of those things that's evolved. And out of that, we've built our own now professional, like a little mini Accenture.
Okay.
Because we're not a body shop, and our rates are quite high for this market. That's why we mostly focus in America. We're exporting Thai brain power and talent and skills, and our business partner in Armenia, we're exporting that to America.
Okay.
So we keep them fully employed on our product and our professional services, and these customers will also ask us, hey, can you stand up a business intelligence team? So we have a small business intelligence team that we fully anticipate to grow to maybe 30 at the end of this year, 30 people.
Cool.
Just from the demand of 2 customers in America.
So yeah, it seems like you're doing services on top of your SaaS product. Is that kind of your growth strategy, like to create a partner network through your services and then to refunnel that work to your SaaS business?
It's just purely accidental that we have this. It was a conversation about one thing, and we were just invited to basically become their overseas professional services team. In fact, they told us we're hiring freeze in our own company. We're only going to hire through you. So it's become it's purely accidental. But if you think about it, most software companies have a services division anyway. right? Because when they're idle from the customer work, they can work on the product.
Sure.
And then when you get a demand from a project, okay, boom, this slows down a little bit, and then we're profitable from this, right? And when you're growing a SaaS company, it's a heavy lift to get it off the ground. The money you have to put at it.
And you're bootstrapped, right?
We're bootstrapped, yeah.
Right.
All friends. We've
That makes sense.
never raised a single dime of professional money. We're all just from guys on the golf course.
So you have partners though?
Yeah, I have shareholders.
Okay.
I have shareholders. They're mostly here. A few, live around. Actually, none in America. Maybe, one or two small shareholders in America, but I would say 90% of the funding came from people in my apartment complex and guys I play golf with.
Right. And so where do you see the business going? I mean, what are your growth strategies for it? What's the expectation? I know you wanted to wind down, but it seems like you're on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, so what we plan on doing for the growth strategy is this. The 4 pillars I talked about, one of them is municipalities. We're attacking the 30 to 50,000 town population, town size, because they're all way more diverse than they think they are. They almost all have people from south of the border up there picking fruit and doing whatever, manning the car washes. And the way I feel is they have a right to know that the tornado's coming in their own language. So before us, how does the town communicate with its people? Well, they just go post something on the website. But who looks at the town's website? Have you ever looked at your hometown's website?
I actually never get communications from my city, which was back then Toronto.
I don't even, does Bangkok have a website? I don't even know. Right?
No idea.
But that's how, what is the communication strategy for a town in America? There are a couple products. Gov Delivery is one of them, extraordinarily expensive, way above a small town budget, right? We are at a price point that the mayor can be like, oh yeah, I'll buy that, and just swipe a credit card. In fact, our very first municipal customer told us, you need to raise your prices.
Just doesn't seem serious enough.
It doesn't, well, yeah, you're not gonna ever make money, but each incremental customer is 78% gross margin. Right? Yeah, we have our fixed costs, but they're minuscule. Right? We land one customer, it covers all of our infrastructure costs. The margin on that.
Wow.
For 1 month.
What's your pricing like? Because you mentioned it was super low, but
it is super low. We have a messaging credit system because every channel has a different price.
Right.
And one channel in different countries have different price. So sending a text message from America to Azerbaijan is different than sending it to here, right? And so that's our most expensive channel. So when you send messages to your audience members via SMS, you consume a few more message credits than, let's say, sending via email. Or
you built on top of like Twilio or something like that?
Several, yeah. We have several, and we can go in on a per country basis and change the pricing and change the delivery agent. We can change it, let's say, from AWS to Twilio to Vonage.
Right.
And we're adding a couple more partners there. We're actually adding a full-on omni-channel partner to basically outsource that whole bit because they're pros at delivering to WhatsApp and Line and SMS and all of that. And we can then focus more on the stuff we're doing now is we're bolting in, well, I'll get back to the pricing, but we're bolting in AI that will do scoring of how well you write a message because we know it's going to be translated to these languages. So you have to write it a certain way. That's the root cause of all bad translations is the source writing. If you don't write it well, the translation engine's not going to do well.
Yeah.
Right. So we prompt people to write better. We offer help. We'll actually rewrite it with Gemini and ChatGPT automatically behind the scenes. We'll score their writing, let them know if they need some help. But for pricing, you basically say, okay, in the next month I've got 10,000 people. I'm going to send them each 10 messages. So you need 100,000 messages. That's 200,000 message credits. That's this much money. And it's loosely priced on what it costs to deliver a text message. So if you look at MessageSpring, it costs you whatever the price is, 1/10 of a cent or whatever it is to send a message. Well, if you go over to Vonage or something like that, it's about the same. It's about the same, plus or minus 10%. But with us, you get a built-in CRM, you get text-to-speech, which costs money. You get language translation, which costs money. And if you're a small business, you also get your own free little website. We build you automatically a free website. So if you're a little coffee shop and you're wanting to compete with Starbucks that has an app and proximity beacons and wallets and stuff like that, we have all that. We have proximity beacons, so when someone walks in your coffee shop, they can get a message on their app.
Cool. So you mentioned municipalities. Like, what's the strategy to get to like how many thousands of municipalities in the U.S.? Like,
it's basically we landed a couple cities, and every other one has come because they talked to someone. Yeah. And we've not even started spending money on marketing at all.
But you have ideas around how you would approach it?
Yeah, I've been asked to go do keynote speaking at a couple, like the municipal conference in Missouri. I'll do that because I'm going to talk to 300 municipalities at one time, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And the town we're onboarding right now, we're replacing 5 platforms. We're replacing something that does the automated call bit. We're replacing the SMS, the bulk SMS thing. We're replacing MailChimp. We're replacing Hootsuite, and a couple other things, right?
So it makes sense. Like,
as Elon Musk says, it's a compelling product at a compelling price.
Right. It's just about getting it in front of people, basically.
You got to the sales cycle is like 5 minutes. Everybody who looks at it like, why would we not buy this, right? Because it does all. If it had, and we actually have them sign up during the demo, and they see it work. They enter their phone number in our little audience widget. They get a text message. They opt in, yes, and they get the initial message. It's beautiful.
Is there a migration needed, or it's really
zero? Well, yeah. If you have a tool, let's say you've got some audience in MailChimp, and you've got something in your bulk SMS tool. You export that and just drag it into our CRM.
Or whatever.
Yeah, literally CSV file. Just drag it in our CRM, and we do all types of data checks. Is the email address in the right format, and does it exist?
Right.
Is the phone number in the right format, and is it not a fax number? Is it a textable number? Because a lot of the data you can imagine, right?
Probably obsolete.
Yeah, it's a phone number that's not even textable. It's a fixed line number or whatever, right? Because when you send that message out to a fixed line number, you still have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? So we try to clean up their data.
Okay.
And we actually do phonetic translation for names not in your language. So if you can't read Thai and you've got a Thai name there, we will actually phonetically, and trying to phonetically spell something in English is like really hard. Getting the translation engines to do that, we do it automatically.
Beautiful.
So when Somchai walks in, you don't call him umbrella if that's the literal translation or whatever Somchai translates to, right? We actually give you a phonetic spelling in your language.
We're kind of running out of time because we expanded on like life stories, but I actually love those life stories. To me, they're really, really important. They kind of shape you up. I feel like I learned a lot. I hope you enjoyed the interview.
I did.
It was a really good time having you on.
Yeah.
So thanks again, and appreciate it again.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. Thanks for the time.